Version 60 of Lethal Company brought us MINESHAFT interiors, which is potentially the new most exciting part of the game. They are slightly more complex than other interiors, and so we will attempt to break them down in a detailed way based on our observations. The mineshaft has a 99% chance to spawn on Val, and it's also fairly common on offense and dine. The mineshaft has three main sections: the elevator room at main, the facility or concrete section, and the caves. The elevator room is attached to the main entrance, but never the fire exit. It has an upper and lower section, with the elevator in the middle. We have seen keys spawn here, but never any enemies. The elevator has a side button on the rail to call it if it's not on the same floor, and a button inside to send it up or down. You can pile loot in here over time, and then send it all up at once at the end of the day. As of the V62 patch, the main entrance can be at the front of the room, upstairs, or on one of the sides. Section 2 comprises the base of the mining facility. It's the only section that will have a fire exit. Some loot will spawn here, but not as much as in the cave section. I usually call this part the facility, but this is not the same thing as a facility interior, so I'll refer to them in this video as concrete tiles. I won't go as in-depth on specific concrete tiles, since the most important part is really the caves, but I'll give a brief summary and strategies. The concrete section has one elevator tile, which is usually only open on one side. Throughout this section there are typical ramps that go to the floor above or below, replacing your standard staircases and other interiors. There are also wide hallway tiles. Each hallway has a specific number of potential interfaces that can connect to a special room, or a cave if they're open. These special rooms are similar to facility loot rooms, and sometimes they have carts or containers. There's also a room with railings and a pit in the middle. These smaller open interfaces are usually characterized by a yellow double door that opens on one side, and often has a yellow light. If instead the interfaces of the hallway connect to another hallway, the passage is much bigger, similar to the open concept of a mansion. A fire exit can also exist on an open hallway interface. There are also some interfaces that are marked by a distinct blue light, marking a cave entrance. These are usually a fair distance away from the elevator and often on another floor. These blue lights are what you should be trying to get to as quickly as possible in this interior. The third and most important section is the cave section. Every mineshaft interior has a cave section, which should be prioritized when looting. In mansion and facility maps, there is always only one branch that opens up into the maze while the other sides lead to dead ends. When you loot it, it's a good idea to go deep in the maze first, before monsters spawn, and then kind of work your way backwards. It's similar to this with the cave system. Caves automatically have a higher loot spawn chance, and are usually the deepest part of the interior. So when players are exploring, they should let others know when they found the cave so that they can be looted first. You should leave loot found in this facility or concrete section in the doorways on the way back to main, rather than gathering them all at the elevator immediately. That way you can save time and get to the caves as quickly as possible. The cave systems work very similar to a typical facility maze. There are dedicated loot room tiles and dedicated hallway tiles at right angles to each other, and this forms grids. Because they are textured in such a way as to appear curved and random, they can be more confusing and easy to get lost in. You can't see all the way to the end of the hall like you can in a facility map. For this reason, it's important to keep a sense of general direction in terms of which way you need to go. Set loot in the doorways of important intersections like you would for the other interiors. Also remember that every tile is only going to lead one of four ways, like on a facility: north, south, east, or west. If there's a diagonal portion of the cave, it'll only look like that within that tile's area, so don't let it confuse you. This is because of how tiles connect at interfaces. Every tile has hidden interfaces only visible in FreeCam, where you can see the junction between two tiles and where they can be generated. Here you can see how an interface looks, even though it's closed. So on the inside, all you see is a wall, but on the outside there's a potential interface where it could connect to a junction. A standard hallway tile has one interface on each side, and its appearance depends on how many of those interfaces are actually open, or connected to another tile. A door tile will usually have 3 or 4 open interfaces, one of which is the door itself, which is sometimes locked or sometimes just a big hole in the wall. There are usually 3 door tiles to enter the cave, and they are commonly near each other. There are a few tiles that have minecarts or lamps in them. They usually have 3 or 4 open interfaces, 2 on the opposite ends going lengthways, and on the side opposite the minecart. The water tiles are probably the most interesting part of the caves. The entire water path always makes one big loop. They always have 4 corners, and only one puddle entrance can be at each corner. However, not every corner will always have an open interface. There are 2 potential interfaces at each corner perpendicular to each other. If both interfaces are open, there will be 2 paths to go down coming out of just one puddle. If both interfaces are closed, then there won't be a puddle at the corner of the loop. A corner with no open interfaces like this is usually identifiable with a slightly lower ceiling as you're crawling through, and it's the most likely corner for you to get stuck in and drown. For this reason, you should always move one corner at a time in these water sections and make sure that the corner is open before you fully commit to crawling through it. Caves also function similar to other interiors in terms of stairs. They don't just randomly go up and down, even though sometimes they appear to, but instead they have dedicated floors and specific tiles with stairs. The initial entrance to the cave should be treated as the ground floor, and other floors going up or down should be explored first, and then you work your way backwards to the ground floor. There are a few types of stair tiles. The first one is the large pit tile, with a jump similar to the facility jump. The pit tile sometimes is flat without the staircase, but often it has a single ramp on the opposite side of the pit. There are also 2 large slope tiles. One is just a big slope with a low ceiling and 1 or 2 interfaces at the top of the slope, 1 or 2 in front of the slope, and 1 going backwards on the side of the slope. The second type of slope tile has a small circular death pit against the wall and an open side opposite to it. It usually feels a bit bigger with a higher ceiling. For this reason, be careful not to hug the wall on these slopes and fall into the hole if it's dark. Lastly, sometimes dead-end tiles with only 1 open interface will have containers or minecarts in them. A lot of times these tiles will have loot. I hope that this in-depth run-through was helpful for you. Most of the discussion here was based on observation and free cam mods rather than looking at any code. So if you have any corrections or other strategies that you like to use, please let us know in the comments. We wish you luck in your endeavors to be a great asset to the company.